Alicia, you get to introduce yourself now.
Hi, I'm Alicia Johnson.
You have to stand up.
That's required.
Golly.
We did.
Okay. I'm Alicia Johnson. I live in Royal Forest off Highway 69. And I'm here just because I'm concerned about crime in the area and just want to see what I can do to help.
Thanks, Alicia. We're glad you're here. Hey, Ricky, you're just in time. While you're standing, we're doing the final introductions. Your name, where you live, and why you're here.
This is the rest of what is left of Rick Yates. After a very long day, I live over in Chelsea in Crossbrook Farms, 39 Crossbrook Farms, and it's my wife Karen over there, and you know we neighbors with Jay. Jay kind of came into this idea, and we thought it was a really good idea. I've lived in Chelsea most of my life and love the neighborhood, and you know I like to look out for my neighbors and all that, and my neighbors look out for me.
Thanks.
Good enough.
That's great. Let's see, I kind of forgot what I was going to say next. I got so engrossed in y'all's comments. So we patterned our whole thought process after Delray Beach, and we met with the Fire and Police Committee and reviewed it with them, and Bill sits on that committee also. And I asked Harold particularly to sit in and join us the night that we did that. And we got some interesting reactions, and I think we had the videotape at that time. And both Bill and Harold said, that's something I'd like to do. And I mean, it just kind of had a, you know, that was the first step. And then we met with the town council during a work session and reviewed it with them. And we didn't get, let's do it, but we weren't getting much, I don't think we should do it because. And the biggest issue, I was kind of glad Pearl wasn't here for that, just the liability issue. That was the one that kept coming up. But at one point, they asked us to put together the operations manual. And that's where this booklet, and I think each of you has this, right? That's where this book came from. We created the operations manual so that people could really see exactly what it was we were doing. And this manual, I actually know it pretty well, is really a takeoff from the Delray Beach manual adapted to Chelsea. And then what's happened since then is George Glynn's read it, Chris Curry's read it, Sheriff Jones has read it, Don King's read it, you all have read it, my wife's read it several times, corrected all the grammar and spelling errors. The League of Municipalities has reviewed it, and it's gone through, and every town council member, the mayor's read it, and it's gone through a lot of refinement. And I think it now really represents what we want the program to be. And on December 1st, the town council meeting that was held that day, actually they passed a resolution establishing the program. And that was kind of a major milestone. We've been working on it since February of the year, so it took that long to get it to a point where it was reality. And one of the things that happened as soon as it was passed was we began to get some press, some interest from the various news agencies. In fact, on Friday morning, Shannon Thompson with Birmingham News had a spread on the COPS program. And in fact, that was the second time she'd written about it, because she wrote about it when it was being discussed, because Glenn kept bringing it up in the town council meetings. And then that day, Channel 3340 did a short piece on it, which I'm going to share with you in a moment. It's been covered in the Shelby County Reporter and the Community Messenger, and we still see pieces in the Birmingham News periodically since then. And I think that's all good, because it helps educate our public, the people that we're going to be seeing about the program. So some people that you talk to may have already read something about it. For example, I tried to reach John Johnson one day, Alicia's husband, and Alicia answered the phone. I said, is John there? And she said, yeah, but I got a question for you. I read about your COPS program. Can women do that? And here she is. It was something that she was interested in. Let's show that other video now. Just I just push start. So this, I thought that the reporter for Channel 3340 really did a good job of capturing the essence of the program. And it was kind of fun seeing it on our home turf.
Jay, before you jump off of that
Yeah.
subject, I've gotten a call from Karen Church with Fox 6, and apparently Fox 6 has decided to assign her and the camera crew to Shelby County on a permanent basis. Now, for your information, I also believe that this is the sweeps time where all the stations get rated, so I don't know if Karen Church will be assigned to Shelby County after the sweeps time, but purpose being if they can get more viewership during that period of time, the station looks better, so they've made this move. She called me about Tuesday and already knew about the Chelsea Cops program. And I said to her, she wanted to come out and interview me that day, and we were just covered up. And I said, ma'am, we have a training meeting Thursday night at told her the location, told her the time, told her the mayor to be there, told her the councilman to be there, told her Jay German to be there, gave her a phone number. Did she call you? I did everything I could do to hand her the story, to show up tonight and get some film on the training session and you folks and see what the essence of it was. She called me this afternoon and said, can I come out in the morning and talk to you about the cops program? Oh, boy,
Miss you.
Yeah, I said, I tried to delay it in your hand and say, here we are. But the point of my story was, I'm sure she's going to show up somewhere in the morning and want something. I'm going to try and aim her back in here to you folks. I'll talk to her, the sheriff will talk to her, somebody at the sheriff's office will talk to her about it. But I'm going to try and send her back so she gets the real story, which is you folks. But you might want to watch Channel 6, Fox 6, tomorrow night, because sometime in there, a reporter named Karen Church is going to do a story to some degree.
Has everybody signed the sign-in sheet? Alicia, did you get it?
Good track.
But I think it's important that we have these contacts, because as we get uniformed and get our cars marked and begin to make a visible presence, they're going to be interested in doing stories on us. And when I don't know what's going to happen, but somehow we're going to play a role in preventing something, or somebody gets caught, we're going to play a role. And when that happens, we're going to the media, because we want them to hear that story. This was on December 4th.
Fired on the two robbers after they shot at him.
That's not the cops' program.
program.
Pretty good program, I thought. A couple of things have changed. You've heard them reference uniforms and car markings and so on, so let me share with you a little of that exciting part. I picked up some stuff when I was in Delray Beach. This is the magnetic that you saw on the side of the vehicle in the first videotape. And then recently, they added this little strip that goes on the back of the car. And I'm the one that pointed out to them that there's no S on Citizen Observer Patrol. But that's just an example of how helpful they've been. Is, anything that I ask about, here, take one. You all might want to take a look at it and see what kind of example you have. The GMC has made the decision, with the mayor's concurrence, not to use yellow lights. Everybody has yellow lights, every wrecker, every construction vehicle, anybody else. So we're doing something more unique. We're using green lights, and we bought one on test, which I'm going to demonstrate for you here in a second, because it works pretty good. But it's reserved for security use, and I think it makes us a little more distinctive. And it's magnetically mounted, and y'all are welcome to, during the break or afterwards, to come take a look at it. It has 4 90-pound magnets on the bottom. You want to know why we have to have 2-man patrols? It takes 2 people to get this thing off. You will want to be careful. One of the cautions that we've got is that it can scratch your vehicle. So we're recommending that you take this little piece of rubber, which is nothing but
rug pad, it looks like.
it's a rug pad, or it's real thin. It's what you use in a kitchen drawer. And so we'll put pieces of that with it, and you put that on the top of the car, set the magnet on top of it, and it protects your car from being scratched.
Well, does that, keep, on your own patrol, you keep that flashing?
Well, we'll talk about that. Normally it won't be on, but there'll be times where it's appropriate to use it. objective is by the time you complete the training Tuesday night, you'll be able to go out and begin patrolling. And we're asking for a contribution of 3 hours per week. The time you spend in this class tonight and Tuesday night count towards your 3 hours. Also, and that's an average of 3 hours. I mean, I travel. I may miss a week or two, so I may make it up somewhere else. We're going to need to, while we're here, decide on having a meeting night once a month. And you might give some thought to what night would work. Where it's just a standard meeting, standing meeting, where we get together, meet with the sheriff's office, and exchange information, talk about what's going on. You get briefed on what's been annexed, what's going on in the community, where the crime is, what we need to be looking out for, and so on. Now, Earl made a point, and Glenn, I think, reinforced it. It's really important for us to keep in mind. We're doing this for the first time. I've got more questions than answers. So we're going to be creating this program as we move forward. And everybody's idea is a good idea. And we'll work through it, we'll try some things, and if we can improve it, then we'll change. This is our current thinking on the magnetics for the side of our cars. Earl hasn't seen this, but it's an evolution of his idea, actually. It would be 12 inches in size with a Citizen Observer Patrol complimentary piece that would look like this. And there would be a set of 3 for each vehicle, for each side and also the trunk. And the trunk was actually the Sheriff's Department's suggestion. You can pass it around. We're going to have an equipment kit that will include the light, the magnetics, flashlights, cell phone if you don't have one, international orange gloves against the direct traffic, just things that we think make sense that we'll pass around from teams. And the way I see it being organized is we'll have probably the folks in South Chelsea, which is Alicia and Danny and myself and the Yates and anyone else that signs up. We'll probably share some equipment down in that area. And we've got to figure out who's going to be the overseer of that equipment and how we're going to work it out where we can get it passed around and coordinate amongst ourselves. We need to do the same thing probably in Countryside. And then somewhere down, we got to work it out how we're going to share our equipment. Initially, we're planning to equip 4 cars. And that should support us up to, say, 40 volunteers. And we're going to have to work through the logistics of how we make it not too difficult to get access to, to make it work. We'll just have to take it as it goes and see how it works. Our objective is to have the car markings ready so that we can begin patrol without them, but to have the car markings done by the end of next week. And maybe sooner. And then for uniforms, the town's going to provide a shirt, and my suggestion is that what we're looking at right now is a formal uniform shirt, white, with shoulder patches that would identify a Citizen Observer Patrol, and some sort of emblem here that is sewed on.
What about a copy of your new emblem, a reduced version of your
That idea occurred to me the instant I saw it today.
it kind of looks like a badge.
It looks good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Would you not want it to look like a badge?
No, we want it to look like a badge, but we want it to be an emblem that's sewn on.
Yeah.
And we were actually going down a different path, but I'm intrigued with that idea. We just haven't discussed it yet. And,
I like
think
that
it looks
because
smart.
we don't want to get too many logos out there. And you can tie that back in with the car.
To the car, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, now that decision's just been made. So moving right along.
Yeah, first one.
Love it when a plan makes it.
No grass growing here.
Is this a time to make suggestions?
Yeah.
Okay. What about storing the equipment? What about possibly using the fire station?
We already asked the fire chief about that, Ricky King, and he said that'd be fine.
You
And
know,
it's just a matter of working it out where we keep it secure, and that increases the security at the fire station.
fire
because
station
we'll be
open?
going there.
Is it open?
You
Is it open
You beat
24
the
hours?
chairman of the fire department to that idea.
Is it open 24 hours? Is there somebody there?
There would be,
24 hours?
no, but there would be a way you could get in. We could work that out, and I think in our area, we'll do that, and we could do the same thing, you know, in this part of town. Yeah. And as the number of fire stations grows, you know, there'll be more locations, because that'll happen too. So that would be a formal looking uniform, and the town will provide a shirt for each volunteer. In addition to that, and we don't have any details worked out on this, there's gonna be an ID card, probably with that logo and probably with your picture on it and probably laminated. And you'd probably be required to wear that whenever you're on patrol and in uniform. Like I say, I just shared with you my thinking of what they're doing at Delray Beach. We haven't worked through any of the details on that. And if anybody in here knows how to do that, please bring it up after this meeting.
We can do that at the office.
Terrific.
We can do the ID card and laminate them, and we have an option of either, we have the little pressure alligator clip that we could hook it on with.
Terrific.
Already there, and the other option might be a chain around your neck and just let it hang. Because sometimes the alligator clip, you end up knocking it off and not realizing it. You get out, in and out of the car or something like that. I went to a school up in Quantico, the FBI, and they made us wear them around their neck on a chain, and I found that to be a lot easier, and you became accustomed to it, and you realized when you didn't have it, you know, when you forgot to put it on, you knew right away, so that might be an option there. But we can do those.
But that's a way where you know, you can be identified for sure that you're a member of this program and authorized by the town to, you know, patrol and observe and report and represent the town. Now, so you would provide your own trousers or I hadn't thought about what girls could wear, trousers or skirts, culottes or whatever you want. I mean, it's up to y'all. But black. And I was thinking, you know, just black jeans or slacks or whatever.
Dockers or something like that.
Yeah. And then and then that would be like, you know, what you normally have, short sleeve. If we wanted to dress up for some formal event, we could stick on a tie. But as an option, give people the option of buying a polo shirt that would have Citizen of the River Patrol with the logo in the middle. Much like this one, or maybe you know, slightly off-white. Questions on uniforms, car equipment, that kind of thing. We do not have scanners in our program to supply right now. I've done, and we didn't have it in our book when it went to the sheriff's office, and they recommended that we consider scanners. And this is something that you may want to consider as you get involved in the program, acquiring yourself. And I've done a little bit of research on it, which I'll share with you. It'll take just a moment. I bought a handheld scanner, and I tried it for a week, and I took it back. It doesn't work very well in a car, and most of what we're doing is in a car. And I replaced it with this little jewel that you can buy through the police supply for a discounted price of $180. And it works real well in your car or in your house. And you can set it up to scan the key frequencies that we would want to listen to, like the sheriff's office and the 911 frequency and maybe one or two others. Walmart, $99.
Back up here to your left behind this first house.
Did you hear that? Walmart, $99. Now, we may consider putting these in the equipment bag, but if anybody's interested in having their own, you know, there's some information for you.
Is that those channel frequencies preset?
These, we actually program them in, and it's easy to do. And, you know, I can show you what the frequencies are and how to do it. And you're in business in no time.
Jay, share the reason why
think we need a scanner.
Yeah, the reason for the scanners is, think about this. Ricky and I are out patrolling somewhere down around High Chaparral, Crossbrook, Sis's Grocery or Sis's Store that was featured on the TV show. And the sheriff's department has an incident that's occurred, and the folks that were seen leaving the bank with the bags of money were headed down Highway 39. It'd sure be nice for us to know that, because we could just back up on a side road right there at Sis's Store and wait for them to come by and call in if we saw it. It would just help communicate. If there had been a major incident of some kind where we could help with traffic control or just having a car with some emergency warning lights, and we could, ease over that way. And I'm really getting into what you're going to talk about here, but the scanner would be a way to communicate, that we would know what's going on. It would increase our awareness and make us more effective. So that's a decision we haven't made yet, but we may put those in each equipment bag. For cell phones, I think, how many people have their own? Most people do, some don't. We have, thanks to Chris, gotten a lead from the Community Council on Community Policing, an agency in Washington, D.C., funded by the government. And we either have or will be in process applying for, what do we decide, 5 initially or 6?
Yeah, 5 or 6.
5 or 6 phones initially, but enough to have one in each equipment bag, so that, when you pick up your equipment, you got a cell phone. And we're going to talk more about the use of those things.
Jay, would we also be able to talk to somebody like Radio Shack or somewhere up there?
Now, those cell phones, you can on your own, but on those, you'll be able to call 911. You'll be able to call 669-4181, which is the Sheriff's Office emergency number. Those are both free calls on your phone or these.
Okay.
And I believe you will be able to receive calls on those phones, but they'll be restricted to that use. But, that will serve our purposes, but you won't be able to call Radio Shack.
No,
That was your question? That was your question?
I mean, could we approach Radio Shack about providing some telephones or something?
This
I mean, if we
program,
need some.
this program's already in place, and Bell South is the player, and they provide it. I think Motorola provides the phones, and Bell South provides
The service.
the service, and it's all free.
Yeah, if you got a donated phone, somebody end up having to pay the basic
Right.
monthly fee. And this way, there is no.
Inner
It's handled.
city program, is that what they give them?
They'll give them to the
Control
city.
Inner cities where there's crime, rampant crime.
Well, they'll give them to us. They'll give them to us for this program. But it may be part of that program.
It is, it's a government
Yeah.
sponsored program, I've seen a thing on TV about it.
I'm sure we'll get
They
it.
walk on,
Yeah.
they walk instead of writing in calls, they carry their cell phones and call.
Delray Beach has them, and they've got 50 phones, so we figure we can get 5. And as our program grows, we'll get some more. But so everybody's going to have phones, and that's going to be our way to communicate. More questions at this point? Please think of questions. Where's that overhead?
Right there.
Okay. Let's bring that up here and see if we can use this for, let's see, we're gonna set it right here.
We'll reach over there behind it.
Oh, we got lots of them.
Jay, you said the scanner that's portable, that works off of 12 volt?
Yeah,
Serial
12 or
wire?
110.
It's too close.
I can move this back a little bit. Okay. Is that it work?
Working.
Working better?
Probably what I'd put it back on that second table to both screen.
Just pull it on and see how.
Just put it up there on the front wall. Put it on the front wall.
Will it work on
Try it.
the dark wall?
Put it on the white doors.
I mean, it's. There, we're in business. Okay, everybody got their manual?
What are we going, well, yeah, we can't turn the lights out, because even though that helps, it's gonna make it hard to see it.
I think everybody's read the manual, and what I'd like to do is just go back through a few things, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll turn it over to Chris. The manual is dated, and it's dated for a reason. We're gonna revise the manual periodically, and you need to make sure you're using the latest version. You're gonna see a couple of proposed revisions in my charts, but the manual that's in play right now is December 98. So that's the one you wanna have. There were some that were out, that were dated November. You wanna be sure yours is December.
Jay, we got an October, you got,
October. That was the one with the spelling and grammar.
where are you, Jay?
Okay, good, because we changed some of the things in the manual. You'll notice inside the front cover, there's a letter from the mayor. And I think the key point that's important to us is that this program is a very seriously supported program by the town of Chelsea and by the sheriff's office. And I think we need to all realize, how much commitment there is behind it. The preface, which is on the next page, lays out what our objective is, which is to reduce crime and help our citizens feel secure in their communities. And I think that's what Philip even said, and maybe a couple other people in introductions, what their interest was in this program. Now, I mentioned the number of months that it took to bring this program to fruition, and most of that time was spent on page 3. Page 3. This is Citizen Observer Patrol Policies. And down in paragraph 2, it says that the volunteer's role is to report suspicious incidents and crimes, and that we should never pursue or attempt to apprehend any person suspected or involved in any incident, offense, or crime. Our job is observe and report. We're forward observers. We see something that is interesting to us, we think may have some future value, we want to write it down. In fact, we're going to need to come up with a system where we log the information that we collect and make sure that we get it processed correctly. I don't know what that system is yet. But until we do work it out, everybody should have a spiral binder. And you see anything that attracts your attention, note the time, location, description, license number, vehicle, the people. It may not be something that you even think you might call in, but if it comes up later, you say, I did see a vehicle across from the vet clinic the night it was robbed. And you go back and you look in your book and say, oh yeah, it was a white Chevy van, late model, left rear fender was dented in, license number, that could be very helpful information. I saw Bill smile when I said that because we know about that incident. But we don't want to get involved. We don't want to get into a situation where we will be confronting anyone. We want to keep our distance. Adherence to the rules is critical. That's specifically stated in paragraph 3. Requirements to be in the program, 21 years old, live in or own property in the town of Chelsea. The purpose of this program is within the city limits. And you know, as you can see from our map, knowing where the city limits are is a little bit of a challenge because we don't have the boundaries drawn on the ground yet. So part of what we need to come up with is a map. And our current thinking is to have an overall map that's probably an 8.5 by 11 that shows the whole town and has quadrants or sections with numbers in them, and you can turn to a page and see exactly where the city limits run. But generally, we want to patrol within the city limits. That's what our mission is to patrol the businesses and the residents within the city. And then, when you talk to someone outside the city, and they say, oh, I'd like to have that service, annex. And I can help you on that front, too. To get into the program, as everyone's done except for Philip, and we're going to take care of him later tonight, provide a completed and signed application form. A criminal history check will be run by the sheriff's office, and then the general management committee must approve that application. Once those things are done, then attend the required training prior to any patrol activity. And by the time we complete Tuesday night, you all will be qualified. And then what we're looking for is 3 hours per week average, or minimum average, from that point forward.
Well, that'd be one patrol or 3 hours over.
You can do it in half-hour increment. Right now, current thinking, you can do it anytime, any day, in any increments you want. And the biggest problem that you're going to have is logistically sharing the equipment, and is my perception. And after we've tried it for a couple of weeks, I'll probably have a different perception. But yeah, there's no restrictions on it right now at all.
Well, if we use it, it's going to be the next person taking the next shift. And when we drive that shift, then we just take it to that person.
Sure.
Leave it on the front porch.
Yeah, and Harold, what we need, you're bringing up a very good point. I don't know that I want to leave it on the front porch, but
Here is never at home.
but what we're going to need to do is have one person. We're going to have to kind of logically divide the town up into sections, and then have one person in each section that has responsibility for overall coordination of use of the equipment and making sure that it's, you know, kept secure and we're not losing stuff and things like that. So I'll be looking for volunteers for anyone who wants to take on that responsibility in, you know, the individual areas. And I don't know what those areas are going to be yet. I think one of them is going to be around Countryside, or that part of town. One of them is going to be in South Chelsea, in our part of town. And we're probably going to, you know, have to do something over on Highway 11 because we need to.
Highway 280 each, as far as trying to get
Someday.
that.
But we'll have to work through that, and we'll just have to make it work and see what system. We may try it and need to adjust it, and we'll do with what makes the most sense as we get some experience. Now, I mentioned earlier that the General Management Committee, is that in focus or not? Is made up of the town councilman assigned by the mayor to head the Fire and Police Committee, which is Glenn.
Yeah.
The deputy assigned by the sheriff's office, which is Chris Curry, and a third member who will oversee the day-to-day activities and up in confirmed in that position. And then once we get over 20 volunteers, we can add a fourth member if we think that's appropriate to do it. The town council has to confirm all appointments to the GMC. And then the volunteers report to the GMC and it reports to the mayor. But the key thing that I wanted to point out is in paragraph 3, under the General Management Committee. And that is the GMC may terminate the service of any volunteer for failure to meet individual requirements. That means they don't meet the basic requirements for some reason. Somebody's in the program and we didn't turn up their felony record. Could be an example until later. Or for failure to follow the rules and regulations, or for any other reason which in the judgment of the GMC is in the best interest of the program. We want to keep it a high-quality program. We want to maintain a professional image. And if we find, you know, that somebody's chasing cars with their they're gonna get the hook. And I think that's good for all of us. You know, we need to be consistent, so I just want to point that out. The GMC reports to and serves at the will of the mayor. He has the last word. And as we revise the manual, revisions will be approved, or made by the GMC and approved by the mayor. So that's how that works. On page 4, on the rules and regulations, we're not vigilantes, we're eyes and ears, and we're public relations people. We can't carry any weapons, and I'm probably not going to say this too many times, but I'll say it a lot more than once. Even if you have a concealed carry permit, don't have a gun in your car when you're in patrol. If we find that out, you're going to get the hook. I mean, just know it. No mace, no guns, no knives. We're not going to be armed in any way. I think the closest thing we can get to a weapon is a flashlight if you carry a manual. Generally speaking, we're going to be encouraged not to get out of our cars. Now, there's going to be exceptions to that, and I'm not going to get into Chris's point, but I can tell you, if I see something going down, I'm going to want to be in my car, on the phone, ready to drive away. Never try and block a suspect or somebody trying to escape. You want to get as much information as you can, report it to the sheriff's office, feed the information to the people that are paid to do that job. We're not being paid to do that job.
Jay, I think this is a good time to emphasize the two. One driving and one looking for that information.
That's a real good point, Earl. There's several reasons why the two-man, that's generic, two-man requirement. One is safety. You can't drive and watch everything and do both as effectively as having two people, having one driving and one watching. The other thing is, it's a whole lot more fun not doing it alone, I can tell you. The thing that I think is when something happens, you need somebody to corroborate your story when you come to our meeting and tell everybody what happened. But it's going to be a whole lot more exciting if when you see something suspicious, you have somebody where you're sharing your judgment. And most of what we do is going to be our own judgment. We need to obey the traffic laws. We're not being authorized to speed. We're not being authorized to run lights. We're not being authorized to do anything that you can't do any other way. So we're expected to follow the laws. The emergency light, we're going to talk about the use of that if you come upon a traffic accident or a situation where it warrants it. You know, that's what it's there for. You use it. And also turn on your flashers. They go together. They work even better. We may, in certain situations, do some traffic direction. And we want to look out for our own safety. We want to be safe. On your car, make sure that you're not driving around with the headlight out. We're trying to set the example. Make sure everything works. I mean, you see the sheriff's department driving around with dirty cars with headlights out, and turn signals that don't work.
Expired tags.
Expired tags. Come on in. I'm going to ask you two to introduce yourselves in a few minutes with your name, where you live, and what is it that inspired your interest to be here. A couple more of our volunteers. So, I don't know, my feeling is I'm going to drive my Ford Explorer, the red one. And before I go out, put these magnetic signs on it and everything. I'll make sure that it's not covered with mud from four-wheeling, you know, and stuff like that. We'll make it look good, set the example. Make sure all the lights work and stuff, and that, you know, I really am doing the right job. Item number 10, I skipped number 9, now you might catch that one in yours, Chris. Item number 10, we're going to be exposed to information that is confidential. We're going to learn some things as this program evolves, and we're going to be expected to keep it confidential. We're going to know things that other people don't know. We're going to know who may be not home, whose house may be vacant, We may know some spicy stuff. We need to keep it within our group. Number 11, we'll get to know the members of the sheriff's office as this program evolves. And some of them are detectives, plain clothes, working on special assignments and stuff. We stumble onto them, just keep on going, just ignore them. We might blow their cover. And the last one is avoid all confrontations. And the second sentence says use good judgment. And I think everything we do, we need to rely on our judgment. There's going to be 100 things that will come up before the end of the year that aren't covered in this book. And we're going to have to apply good, sound judgment in how we deal with it. At this point, I'm going to ask these two to introduce themselves.
I'm Kathy.
You have to
Parrish.
stand up, by the way.
I'm Kathy Parrish. I live at 220 County Road 69. And I'm here because they called me. Well, actually, I take it back. Harold and Jean came, we go to church together, and they came up to me and asked me if we would be interested in doing it. And since we live in this area and haven't been able to get involved in anything else, we thought this would be a good thing.
We're glad you're here.
You'll make me stand up too, right?
Yeah, you got to stand up. That's part of it.
Well, I'm Brenda Parkins as well. I also go to church with the Robertses, and I'm at 220 County Road 69, and I'm a people watcher. And I tend to watch anyway, and I think probably the best thing to do as far as the neighborhood, I'll see more than the police will anyway, so I think it's a good project.
And we're going to train you how to do it even better.
That sounds like one.
We're glad you're here. At this point, we're going to I'll take any questions. Any questions at all? Anything that's come to your mind? I mean, it's open season. Let's do that, and then we're going to reconvene. I've got 8:23, so we'll reconvene at 8:30 and turn it over to Chris, okay? I guess the first one that I had mentioned was we need to get to know each other a little bit. And we're going to be working together. We're going to be sharing equipment and stuff like that. I have put together a package of information. And in fact, you'll give one of these packages to each person. I appreciate it. The first is a list of us, our names, our street address, and all the phone numbers that we put in our application. And it is marked confidential. I mean, this list needs to stay within this group. But we need to be able to communicate with each other. And for teaming up for rides and sharing equipment and so on. And that's the purpose of the first page on this stack of information. And you'll notice there's an ID number on the left. That is your number. And in some cases, we may actually use the number instead of our name. Like, I'm going to give you an example of that in a couple minutes. On our timesheet, on the timesheet, it has a place where you put down your partner's name, but you'll see it's a real tiny spot. So if you just want to put down his number, that's fine. On the next page, there's a form for describing the person or vehicle, and it's that page right out of the manual, page 9. Because, as Chris talked about last week, sometimes we write things down. It's going to be easier for us to report. We need to train ourselves how to do it. And I'll run off as many copies of this form as you want. And in fact, I had intended to create a stack of them, which you can pick from. We can still do that tonight. The next page is the monthly hours patrol page. I'm sure that you form designers in here could do a much better job on this. I threw this together quickly last night so that we would have something to get started with. One of the things we need to do tonight is pick when we're going to meet each month. And at that meeting, it would be my expectation that we would turn these sheets in. And what this is just a record of our time. If you look across the form, it says at the top, volunteer name, that's your name, your ID number, that's the number I just pointed out to you, what month it is, February, and then several columns or several rows that says date, partner, time in, time out, total. The total is the total amount of time. area patrol that knows. And I'm not looking for anything verbose. I'm looking for just, you know, when you were out there and generally where you went. You know, it could be all the town, or it could be just Crossbrook, or whatever. And then a note, if there were anything worthy of note, just put a note in here to attract our attention to it. And if you really want to put more, turn it over and write some more on the back. But this is not to replace your spiral binder. I mean, that's the thing where you're going to keep your records, is a spiral binder that you get. This is just to attract our attention to the fact that you apprehended a burglary suspect by calling 911 or calling the sheriff's office and dispatching them, and they intercept, you know, just something here that indicates a highlight. You know, we're reporting an accident with directed traffic and fire, whatever it was. Okay, on the next 2 pages, how many people have scanners today? How many? 1? 12? Anybody else?
You mean with us or?
No, period.
Home.
That you own or have access to. These are the Sheriff's Department's codes. And I can tell you that when you listen to a scanner, if you don't have these codes, you're a little bit in the dark. But with the codes, the light comes on, you really know what's going on. And I put these in here because you might have access to a scanner, you might decide to acquire one, you might know somebody that's got one they're not using that you can have access to or whatever. And we may, in fact, ultimately decide to include them in our equipment list. So that's what that's for. One other thing that we have that we're going to talk about in a little while is the map. And Chris, I think we'll do this later on, is go over the map, and we'll pass out this to teams, and we have our car markings in. How do you like these? In fact, the first time we got to use them was in front of the 3340 cameras. And we've got 3 sets for each car. The idea is to have one on the left, one on the right, and one on the rear. And originally we were thinking of getting 2 sets per car, and the Sheriff's Department said, well, you ought to put them on the back too. More people see the back than the sides when you're going down the road. So that's what we did. We also have, as you've seen, the 1 emergency light, and we have 3 more on order, right? So we're building our equipment, and I intend to pass out some of these things tonight. We'll work through them. Any questions at this point?
Was Station 2 still going to be a drop point too?
What I intend to do is have us break up later tonight into some teams that are going to share equipment, and have y'all kind of figure out who should coordinate the equipment and how you're going to do it. And I think it's a very good idea. I mean, my guess is that's what the people in South Chelsea are going to want to do, because it's centrally located, it's easy access, but you still have to have a way to figure out who's going to use it which days, or which parts of which days.
What do we consider South Chelsea, your area?
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other area that I'm confident in is going to be Countryside. Where's Gary tonight? Is he in town or out of town?
Out of town.
Okay, that's the guy I was trying to think about. Okay. Any other questions?